My cousin wore a wedding dress to my engagement party, announced her pregnancy at my wedding, scammed everyone with a baby registry, and now she's mad that I'm exposing her. I still remember the moment Pedro proposed to me. We were surrounded by family and friends, at my favorite restaurant, and a band started playing when I said yes. It was perfect, except for the fact there was one thing missing: my cousin Daniela. We've always been extremely close, so her not being there broke my heart. I had no idea why she wasn't here, and I tried so hard to not think about it, but I just couldn't ignore. And that's something I still regret to this day, because I called Daniela the next morning, and she told me, "I don't want you to marry him. You can do a lot better." Wait, what? Then there was beeping on the other end. I drove over to her house after work that day, demanding that we talk. When she opened the door, she gave me a big hug and started speaking in a fake high-pitched voice. "Ah, Bonita, so good to see you." I tensed up while her arms wrapped around me, and after we walked inside, I asked her what the call was about. She just laughed. "That was just a joke, amor. Don't take yourself too seriously. Have I taught you nothing?" As I looked into her widened eyes, I swore I could see some sort of envy or even hatred, but I brushed it off. I told myself she was family, and family is always happy for each other, right? But then she began insisting that we start planning the engagement party. She ended up planning the whole thing by herself in front of me, which I thought was kinda odd, but because it seemed like a good plan, I ran with it. Fast forward to the day of the engagement party. I was getting ready with my mom when she handed me the dress that Daniela had picked out. I expected a white or beige color, but instead it was light green. But I wasn't even suspicious, just grateful, because Daniela had always insisted green was my color. Plus, I still felt pretty. And when Pedro picked us up, I felt like a princess, because he got out of the car, twirled me around, and called me Divina so many times that by the time we arrived, my face was still red from how much I was blushing. Unfortunately, my joy was short-lived, because when I saw Daniela, a wave of nausea hit me. It wasn't that she looked ugly, quite the opposite actually. She looked beautiful, in her white ball gown style dress. Luckily, I didn't have to say anything, because Pedro instantly pulled her aside and politely asked her why she had chosen this attire. "I just love the color white." I knew my husband was about to say something he'd regret, so I swooped in. "Hey Danielle, I feel pretty upstaged right now. Good, because my boyfriend was coming close to proposing, but now your little show scared him away." I had no idea what she was talking about. I took a deep breath. "I still want you to come to my wedding, but I would appreciate it if you made sure to not make me feel like this again, because after all, it is my day." She just scoffed and gave me the silent treatment. I didn't see Danielle again, but she had texted me a very long apology. I had never even heard her say sorry before, so this meant a lot to me, and I knew I made the right decision to invite her to my wedding. The months leading up to it were bliss. Pedro insisted on planning most of it, since it was my day. I was too scared to even talk about how amazing he was, because I didn't want my friends to be jealous. But when the day came, I realized I had been worrying about the wrong people. Daniela was one of the first people to arrive, and she was, thank goodness, wearing a light pink. And at the wedding reception, after I finished my speech, I agreed to let her make a toast. "I know she's the kind of person to make someone's life magic one day," she said. I was confused, but as she continued speaking, I noticed a bump on her belly. That's when I realized she wasn't talking about me and my husband. Panic washed over me, but before I could do anything, her hand reached out for an envelope on the table, and she showed us a photo. "I'm pregnant, everyone!" The photo was an ultrasound. The crowd gasped. I felt tears sting my eyes. Couldn't she have waited a day? My husband held my hand super tight and whispered, "Ignore her, mi amor. Nothing changes the fact that today is about us." But not even the butterflies could distract me from my anger. Everyone rushed towards her, congratulating her, but something about it seemed off. So off, I decided to pay very close attention to her for the entire day. And then an hour later, I caught her downing a bottle of champagne when she thought no one was looking. At that moment, I knew she was faking it. I could have exposed her, but instead I just smiled and talked about her baby's future with her. Not because I wasn't mad, I was. Not because I wasn't upset, I absolutely was. But because I knew the best way to play her game was to act nonchalant. But inside me, a storm was brewing, and she was going to suffer. One Sunday morning, Pedro and I were enjoying breakfast when my phone pinged with another group chat notification. Daniela had sent a sonogram image with the caption, "Baby's first profile pic. Can you see how they have my nose?" The image looked suspiciously generic, like something you'd find on Google. Pedro noticed my expression and put down his coffee. "You still think she's faking it, don't you?" I nodded. "I caught her drinking champagne at our wedding. And have you noticed her bump sometimes looks bigger and sometimes smaller? That's not how pregnancy works." We were interrupted by a knock at the door. Pedro went to answer it, and guess who was standing there? Daniela, with a shopping bag, wearing a tight dress with what looked like a perfectly round pillow stuffed underneath. "Surprise!" she squealed, barging past Pedro. "I was just in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by to show you what I bought for the baby." I forced a smile while she emptied the bag, showing off tiny onesies and booties. The whole time I was watching how her bump shifted unnaturally when she moved. No real pregnant belly moves like that. "How far along are you now?" I asked innocently. She hesitated for a split second. "Almost 5 months." I remembered her announcement at our wedding was about 6 weeks ago. The math didn't add up, but I kept my mouth shut. After she left, Pedro looked at me seriously. "That was weird, right?" "I'm not just imagining it." "Super weird," I confirmed. "And where's this boyfriend she mentioned? The one who was supposedly about to propose?" "She never brings him around." Pedro suggested we just keep our distance, but Daniela made that impossible. She started showing up at my workplace for lunch, because pregnant ladies need company. My coworkers thought it was sweet, but I was getting more frustrated by the day. Things escalated when my mom called, excitedly telling me about the baby shower she was planning for Daniela. She says you offered to host it at your apartment. Isn't that generous of you? I nearly dropped my phone. Mom, I never offered that. We don't even have space for a baby shower. There was an awkward pause. Well, that's odd. She specifically said you insisted because you wanted to be involved with your future first cousin once removed. My mom sounded confused. Should I cancel the invitations then? I sighed, not wanting to create family drama. No, it's fine. We'll figure it out. I hung up feeling defeated. That evening, I confronted Daniela over the phone. Why did you tell my mom I offered to host your baby shower? Oh, did I say that? She giggled. Sorry, pregnancy brain. I must have misunderstood our conversation. But you don't mind, right? You have such a lovely apartment. I wanted to scream but kept my voice level. Next time, please ask before volunteering my home for events. Of course, Monica. You're the best. She hung up before I could say anything else. The baby shower was a nightmare. 30 people crammed into our small apartment, cooing over Daniela and her increasingly unconvincing pregnancy. I noticed she had trouble keeping track of her story, telling one person she was having a boy, another she was having a girl, and a third that she wanted it to be a surprise. My mom pulled me aside during the party. Is everything okay between you and Daniela? You seem tense. I considered telling her my suspicions, but worried I'd sound jealous or crazy. Instead, I just said, we're fine, just some cousin stuff. After the guests left, Pedro helped me clean up while I ranted. Did you see how she couldn't even keep her story straight? And that bump looked like she stuffed a basketball under her dress? Pedro nodded. I noticed. But what's her endgame here? She can't fake a pregnancy forever. There's no baby. That's when it hit me. What was her plan? Eventually, she'd have to produce a baby or admit she lost it. I started feeling a twinge of worry beneath my irritation. Maybe Daniela needed help, not confrontation. The next day, I texted her asking if we could meet for coffee. I planned to gently suggest therapy or support groups. Maybe she was dealing with actual fertility issues or mental health problems. We met at a cafe near my workplace. Daniela arrived wearing a loose-fitting dress, her bump notably smaller than yesterday. Daniela, I started carefully. I'm concerned about you. Is everything okay? You know you can talk to me if something's wrong. Her eyes narrowed briefly before her face settled into a sweet smile. What do you mean? Everything's wonderful. The baby's healthy. I'm glowing. Life is perfect. I took a deep breath. It's just, some things don't add up with your pregnancy. I'm worried you might be going through something difficult. Her smile vanished. Are you calling me a liar? Her voice was suddenly loud enough that nearby customers turned to look. No, I'm just because you got the perfect proposal and the perfect wedding and the perfect husband doesn't mean you get to rain on my parade too. She was fully shouting now. I tried to calm her down. Daniela, please, I'm not trying to. You've always been so jealous of me. Even as kids, you couldn't stand that I was prettier and more popular. This was completely untrue. But she was on a roll. She stood up, hand dramatically on her bump. I can't believe my own cousin would stress me out like this in my condition. The doctor said I need to avoid negative people. With that, she stormed out, leaving me sitting there mortified as everyone stared. I returned to work shaken. An hour later, my phone exploded with messages. Daniela had posted on social media that I had accused her of faking her pregnancy because I was jealous and couldn't stand not being the center of attention anymore. She included a photo of herself crying, mascara running down her cheeks. My mom called, upset. How could you say such things to her? She's family. I tried explaining, but it sounded weak even to me. Mom, things aren't what they seem with Daniela. She's having a baby, Monica. Your cousin is bringing new life into this world and you're treating her horribly. By evening, various relatives had messaged me expressing their disappointment. Even Pedro's mother called him, asking if I was doing okay mentally. That night, I broke down crying in Pedro's arms. Everyone thinks I'm the villain, and maybe I am? What if she really is pregnant and I'm just being paranoid? Pedro held me tight. You're not crazy. Something's definitely off about this whole situation. The next morning, I woke up to another social media notification. Daniela had announced she was having twins now, TWINS, when just yesterday it was one baby. The post had hundreds of likes and comments congratulating her. That's it, I said to Pedro. I need proof. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of her contradictory posts, photos where her bump size changed dramatically from day to day, her timeline that made no medical sense. I even made a spreadsheet of all the different due dates she'd mentioned to different people. Meanwhile, Daniela was milking the drama for all it was worth. She posted daily about how certain negative family members were causing her stress. My aunt, her mother, called me asking me to apologize just to keep the peace. She's always been sensitive, my aunt said, and pregnancy hormones make everything worse. I refused to apologize for something I didn't do, which only made me look more unreasonable to everyone else. Things got even weirder when Daniela suddenly announced she had started a baby registry at an expensive department store. The items she selected were outrageous. A $1,200 stroller, designer baby clothes, a solid gold rattle. She posted about it constantly, tagging family members as hints. When few people purchased from it, she posted a tearful video about feeling unsupported in her journey to motherhood. My cousin Miguel messaged me privately. Is it just me, or is Daniela acting super weird lately? I was so relieved someone else noticed that I spilled everything to him. I've been thinking the same thing, he admitted. The math doesn't add up with how far along she claims to be. And did you notice in that video yesterday, her bump was on her right side, not centered? Miguel became my ally. We started sharing observations and gathering evidence. He even took a photo of Daniela at a family dinner when her bump had clearly shifted to one side after she sat down. About a month after the baby shower disaster, Daniela announced she was going on baby moon to Hawaii. She posted daily beach photos with her bump, looking perfectly round and smooth, suspiciously like one of those silicone fake pregnancy bellies you can buy online. While she was away, Miguel did some digging. He discovered she'd been fired from her job 3 months ago, around the time of my wedding. She hadn't told anyone in the family. That explains why she has time to show up everywhere unannounced. I told Pedro. But why fake a pregnancy? What does she get out of it? Pedro shrugged. Attention? Gifts? Sympathy? When Daniela returned from Hawaii, she was sporting an even larger bump and had a new story. She'd felt the twins kicking while watching the sunset on the beach. It was like they were saying hello to the world already, she wrote, with about 20 baby emojis. That weekend, we had a family barbecue at my parents' house. Everyone was fawning over Daniela, offering her the most comfortable chair, serving her food, asking about the twins. I tried to stay civil, making small talk with other relatives. Then I overheard my uncle giving Daniela a check. A little something to help with the nursery, he said. Kids are expensive, especially two at once. Daniela hugged him, dabbing fake tears. You're too generous. This will help so much since I've had to cut back my hours at work. Another lie. She wasn't working at all. I excused myself to the bathroom, feeling sick. She was scamming our family for money now. This had gone beyond attention-seeking to actual fraud. In the hallway, I bumped into my Aunt Maria, who pulled me into the guest bedroom. Something's not right with Daniela's pregnancy, she whispered. I raised 4 children, and that is not how a 7-month pregnant woman moves. My shoulders sagged with relief. You believe me? Everyone thinks I'm just being mean. Aunt Maria nodded. The girl is lying. But why? I filled her in on what Miguel and I had discovered about her job loss. Aunt Maria's eyes widened. That explains why she asked me for a loan last month. She said it was for baby furniture, but she was very vague about it. With Aunt Maria now in our corner, we had 3 people working to uncover the truth. She promised to talk to a few other relatives who might have noticed discrepancies in Daniela's story. The next bombshell came when Miguel texted me a screenshot of a dating app profile. It showed Daniela with no baby bump, and the photo was dated just 2 weeks ago during her supposed baby moon. I think we've got her, Miguel wrote. I wasn't so sure. She'll just say it's an old photo or that someone's using her pictures. I needed irrefutable proof, something she couldn't explain away. The opportunity came unexpectedly when Pedro and I went to a new shopping mall across town. As we walked past a wine bar, I froze. There was Daniela sitting with a man, drinking a large glass of red wine. No baby bump in sight. I grabbed Pedro's arm. Look, it's her. Pedro pulled me behind a column. Are you sure? Maybe it's someone who looks like her. But it was definitely Daniela. She was laughing, touching the man's arm flirtatiously, and definitely not pregnant. I took out my phone and started recording a video. My hands were shaking, but I managed to get clear footage of her drinking wine and standing up, completely flat-stomached, to go to the bathroom. What do we do now? Pedro asked. I thought for a moment. Nothing yet. Let's gather more evidence first. Over the next week, I did some serious detective work. I discovered Daniela had set up a GoFundMe for her high-risk twin pregnancy, claiming she needed help with medical bills. She'd raised over $3,000 from family, friends, and strangers. Miguel found out the man she was with at the wine bar was her former boss, the one who had fired her. Apparently, they were now dating. Aunt Maria reported that Daniela had been borrowing money from multiple relatives, using the babies as leverage. It was time for a confrontation, but I needed to be smart about it. Daniela had already painted me as jealous and unstable to the family. If I accused her without solid proof, she'd just twist it around again. I decided to set a trap. I texted Daniela, "Hey, I found this amazing sale on baby furniture at that new mall. Want to check it out Saturday?" She replied immediately, "Oh my god, yes! The twins need everything still. You're the best cousin ever." On Saturday, Pedro drove me to the mall early. The plan was simple. I'd meet Daniela at the food court, then suggest we check out the baby store. Our path would take us right past the wine bar where I'd seen her before. Miguel and Aunt Maria would be positioned there, ready to record if her boyfriend showed up again. Daniela arrived wearing a flowy dress with an enormous fake bump. She hugged me like we were best friends, going on and on about how excited she was that I wanted to help with the twins. I noticed she'd named them now, Luna and Leo. "So, the store is on the upper level," I said casually. "Want to grab a smoothie first? I heard there's a good place near here." She agreed, and I led her toward the wine bar. Just as we approached, her phone pinged. She checked it and suddenly looked panicked. "Actually, I just remembered I have a doctor's appointment. Pregnancy brain, am I right? We'll have to do this another time." She started backing away. I pointed to the wine bar. "Isn't that your boyfriend sitting right there?" Her face went pale. The man from before was indeed sitting at a table, checking his watch repeatedly. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. "I need to go." "Daniela, I know you're not pregnant. I saw you here last weekend drinking wine with him. No bump, no pregnancy, no twins." She looked like she might faint. "You're crazy. Look at me." She gestured to her fake bump. "Take off the prosthetic belly, Daniela. The game is over." For a moment, I thought she might confess. Instead, she let out a blood-curdling scream and collapsed to the floor, clutching her stomach. "The babies! Something's wrong with the babies!" People around us gasped. A security guard rushed over. "Ma'am, should I call an ambulance?" Before Daniela could respond, her boyfriend had appeared, looking confused. "Daniela, what are you doing? Why are you on the floor?" She looked up at him in horror, then at me, then back at him. "Jason, help me! The twins!" Jason's brow furrowed. "What twins? What are you talking about?" The security guard looked between all of us, clearly confused. Daniela was still on the floor, now fake sobbing. "Perhaps I can clarify," came Aunt Maria's voice as she approached with Miguel. "My niece Daniela has been pretending to be pregnant with twins for several months. She's been collecting money from family members and online donors for a pregnancy that doesn't exist." Miguel added, "We have proof," holding up his phone. Dating profiles, videos of her drinking alcohol, contradictory social media posts. The security guard helped Daniela to her feet, and in the process, her fake silicone belly shifted noticeably to one side. There was an audible gasp from onlookers. Jason looked horrified. "What the hell, Daniela? Is this true? You told me you needed time off work for stress?" Daniela's face contorted with rage. She pointed at me. "This is all your fault. You've always had everything. The perfect boyfriend, the perfect proposal, the perfect wedding. Everyone always loves you more." I didn't know what to say. This wasn't about jealousy. This was something much deeper, much more disturbed. Aunt Maria put her arm around Daniela. "This has gone too far. You need help." Daniela shrugged her off. "I don't need help. I need people to pay attention to me for once. She started backing away, bumping into a trash can. The security guard stepped toward her. Ma'am, I think you need to come with me. Falsely collecting money under pretenses like this could be considered fraud. Daniela's eyes darted around, looking for escape. In a sudden move, she reached under her dress and pulled out the silicone belly, throwing it at me. Fine. Are you happy now? I'm not pregnant. The food court had gone silent, everyone staring at the bizarre scene unfolding. I felt a mix of vindication and sadness. This wasn't how I wanted things to end. Daniela turned to run, but security stopped her. They took her to the mall office while Jason, looking stunned, followed. Miguel went along to show them the evidence we'd gathered. I stood there with Pedro and Aunt Maria, feeling drained. That was intense, Pedro said, putting his arm around me. Aunt Maria sighed. She's been troubled for years. Her mother, my sister, has always enabled her behavior. This time she went too far. The aftermath was messy. Daniela had to return the money she'd collected from the GoFundMe, which violated their terms of service. Several family members who had given her cash or gifts were furious, though some just felt sorry for her. My aunt and uncle finally got Daniela to agree to therapy. It turned out she'd been struggling since losing her job, and seeing me succeed in her eyes had triggered some deep-seated issues. She'd created the fake pregnancy for attention, but then got caught up in her own lies, especially when people started giving her money and gifts. A month after the mall incident, Daniela sent me a handwritten letter. It wasn't exactly an apology. She still blamed me for pushing her to extremes, but she acknowledged that what she did was wrong. She was seeing a therapist twice a week and working through her issues. I showed the letter to Pedro, who raised his eyebrows. Well, it's something, I guess. Yeah, I agreed. It's a start. My relationship with Daniela would never be the same. The trust was broken, possibly beyond repair, but at least the truth was out, and we could all begin to heal from this bizarre chapter. As for me and Pedro, we were stronger than ever. He stood by me when everyone thought I was just being petty, and he helped me handle the situation with as much grace as possible. We decided to take a break from family drama and booked a trip to Spain to visit his relatives, people who had no idea about the fake pregnancy saga. The night before our flight, Pedro kissed my forehead and said, "You know what's funny? After all this craziness, I'm even more certain I married the right woman." I smiled. Even though my family is clearly insane, especially because of that, he laughed. "You stayed calm and collected through this whole thing. You were firm but fair. That's the woman I fell in love with." As we packed our suitcases, I felt a weight lifting. The Daniela situation had been resolved, and while the family would need time to process everything, at least we were moving forward with truth instead of lies. Little did I know, our drama with Daniela wasn't actually over. It was just changing form. 2 days into our Spanish vacation, I got a frantic call from my mom. "Daniela's been telling people that you stole from her during the confrontation at the mall. She says you took her wallet and that's why she couldn't pay back the GoFundMe money." I nearly dropped my phone. "Mom, that's completely untrue. There were witnesses, security guards. She's lying again." "I know, honey. Most of us don't believe her, but she's convincing some people, especially those who weren't there." I hung up feeling frustrated. Even with all the evidence, Daniela was still trying to manipulate the situation. Pedro noticed my expression, and I filled him in. "We should just enjoy our vacation," he said reasonably. "Deal with it when we get back." He was right, and I tried to focus on enjoying Spain. We visited his grandmother in Barcelona, toured the Sagrada Familia, and ate our weight in paella and churros. For a few blissful days, I managed to forget about Daniela. Then Pedro's phone pinged with a notification. He looked at it and his face darkened. "You need to see this." It was a social media post from Daniela, tagging both of us. She had photoshopped pictures to make it look like I had been harassing her for years. The post claimed I had been obsessed with ruining her life, out of jealousy. She even alleged that Pedro had originally been interested in her before meeting me. "That's insane," I sputtered. "You'd never even met her before we started dating." Pedro was furious. "This has gone too far. She's attacking both of us now." I called my mom again, who confirmed that Daniela was spinning an entirely new narrative. According to her, she had never claimed to be pregnant. That was a misunderstanding I had created to make her look bad. She was saying I had orchestrated the whole mall confrontation to humiliate her. Incredibly, some distant relatives and mutual acquaintances were believing her version. The photos she'd doctored were convincing if you didn't look too closely. "What do we do now?" I asked Pedro as we sat on our hotel balcony, the beautiful view of Barcelona completely lost on us. He thought for a moment. "We fight back with the truth. We have actual evidence, videos, screenshots, witnesses. She only has lies." When we returned home, we discovered Daniela had escalated things even further. She'd created a whole blog detailing her experiences as a victim of my alleged bullying. It was full of fabricated incidents and twisted versions of real events. I was beyond frustrated. Why can't she just stop? She got caught in a massive lie. She should be embarrassed and laying low, not doubling down. Miguel called with even more concerning news. "She came to my workplace yesterday, making a scene about how I betrayed family by siding with you. My boss had to ask her to leave. It was time to put a definitive end to this." After talking with Pedro and my parents, I decided to collect all our evidence and present it to the entire family at once. My mom offered to host a family dinner, inviting everyone except Daniela. The night of the dinner, I was nervous but determined. Most of our close family came, including some who had been swayed by Daniela's new stories. I had prepared a presentation with Miguel's help, showing the timeline of her deception with concrete evidence at each step. As people arrived, I noticed some were avoiding eye contact with me. Clearly, Daniela's smear campaign had been effective with some of them. After dinner, I stood up. "I know there's been a lot of confusion about what happened with Daniela. I want to clear the air once and for all." I walked everyone through the fake pregnancy, showing the contradictory social media posts, the videos from the mall, and statements from people who had given her money. I explained how after being caught, she had created a new lie to make herself the victim. I'm not doing this to hurt Daniela, I concluded. I'm doing this because the truth matters. She needs professional help, not more enabling. There was silence when I finished. Then my uncle, Daniela's father, spoke up. We've known something was wrong for a while. This isn't the first time she's created elaborate stories for attention. That opened the floodgates. Other relatives shared similar experiences, times when Daniela had lied about illnesses, relationships, or achievements. It became clear that this pattern had been going on for years, with family members individually aware, but never discussing it collectively. Aunt Maria suggested a family intervention with Daniela's therapist present. Everyone agreed it was time to address these issues head-on, rather than letting them fester. 2 days later, Daniela showed up unannounced at our apartment. I was alone, as Pedro was at work. I hesitated before opening the door, then decided to face her directly. She looked different, subdued, with no makeup and casual clothes. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I let her in but left the door open, not entirely trusting her intentions. She sat on our couch, fidgeting with her hands. "My parents told me about the family meeting. They said everyone knows everything now." I nodded, waiting. "My therapist says I have issues with attention-seeking and compulsive lying," she continued. "She thinks it stems from when I was a kid and felt overlooked because my brothers were always causing trouble." I wasn't sure what to say, so I just listened. "I'm not saying that excuse is what I did," she added hastily. "It doesn't. I know I hurt you. I know I embarrassed myself and the family." This was the most genuine I'd ever seen her. "What about the blog and the social media posts claiming I bullied you?" She looked down. "I'll delete them. All of it. My therapist says I need to start taking responsibility for my actions instead of creating new lies to cover old ones." There was an awkward silence. I wasn't ready to forgive her, but I appreciated this step toward honesty. "I don't expect us to be close again," she said. "I probably ruined that forever, but I wanted you to know I'm really working on myself." After she left, I called Pedro to tell him about the visit. He was skeptical but hopeful. "People can change if they really want to," he said. Over the next few weeks, Daniela made good on her word. She deleted the blog and the false social media posts. She returned gifts she'd received for the fake babies. She even posted a vague public apology about not being honest and working on personal issues. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Family gatherings were still awkward, but at least the air was clearing. Daniela started attending therapy consistently and got a new job at a small marketing firm. 6 months after the mall confrontation, I ran into Daniela at the grocery store. We made small talk about work and weather. As we were about to part ways, she said, "I really am sorry, for everything." I nodded. "I know. I hope things are getting better for you." She smiled slightly. "They are, slowly. Real life isn't as exciting as the stories I used to make up, but it's steadier." As I watched her walk away, I felt a sense of closure. The cousin drama that had dominated the first year of my marriage was finally settling down. Daniela was getting the help she needed, and I was free to focus on building my life with Pedro without constant interruptions. That night, I told Pedro about the encounter. He hugged me tight and said, "I'm proud of you for handling all this with such grace." I laughed. "I don't know about grace. There were definitely moments I wanted to scream in her face, but you didn't," he pointed out. "You stood your ground with evidence and truth instead of sinking to her level." He was right. Throughout this bizarre ordeal, I'd managed to stay true to myself, and in the end, that's what mattered most. The family wound was beginning to heal, and I was finally ready to move forward. No more fake pregnancies, no more drama, just real life with its ordinary ups and downs. And after everything we'd been through, ordinary sounded absolutely perfect. As I sat there thinking about how perfect ordinary sounded, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Miguel. "Hey, have you seen Daniela's Instagram today?" I sighed and opened the app, bracing myself for whatever new drama was brewing. But instead of some outrageous claim, I saw a normal post of Daniela at her new job, smiling with colleagues. The caption read, "6 months at the new place. Grateful for second chances." It seemed genuine. "Looks like she's really turning things around," I told Pedro, showing him the post. He nodded, looking relieved. "That's good. Maybe we can finally have some peace." But I should have known better than to jinx it. 2 weeks later, my mom called me while I was grocery shopping. "Honey, have you heard from Daniela recently?" "Not since I bumped into her at the store." "Why?" There was an awkward pause. "Well, she's been telling people that she's planning your baby shower." I nearly dropped a carton of eggs. "My what?" "Your baby shower. She's saying you're pregnant and due in August." I leaned against my shopping cart, completely stunned. "Mom, I'm not pregnant. We're not even trying yet." "That's what I thought." My mom sighed. "She mentioned it at your aunt's birthday dinner last night. Said you wanted to keep it quiet for the first trimester, but that she was authorized to start planning." I abandoned my half-filled cart and drove straight home. Pedro was just as shocked as I was when I told him. "Why would she make this up?" he asked, pacing our living room. Things were finally calming down. I called Daniela immediately. She answered on the first ring, sounding suspiciously cheerful. "Monica, I was just thinking about you." "Daniela, why are you telling people I'm pregnant?" "Oh," she laughed awkwardly. "I thought it was supposed to be a surprise. Did someone spoil it?" "There is no it. I'm not pregnant." There was a long pause. But you told me at the grocery store. You said you wanted me to plan the shower because it would give me something positive to focus on." "That never happened. I never said anything remotely like that." Another pause. "Are you sure? Maybe you forgot." I was beyond frustrated. "Daniela, you need to call everyone you told this lie to and correct it immediately." "It wasn't a lie," she insisted, her voice rising. "You definitely told me. I wouldn't make something like this up." But she absolutely would. I hung up and immediately texted Miguel to help me do damage control. Within an hour, he confirmed Daniela had told at least a dozen family members about my pregnancy. That evening, I got a call from Daniela's therapist. Ms. Rodriguez, this is Dr. Klein. Daniela has signed a release allowing me to speak with you. She's quite upset about your conversation today. I explained what happened while trying to keep my frustration in check. The therapist sighed. I suspected something like this might happen. Daniela has been making progress, but recovery from these patterns isn't linear. Would you be willing to come in for a joint session? I think it could be beneficial for both of you. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I agreed. Maybe with a professional mediator, we could finally put an end to these fantasies. The session was scheduled for the following week. Pedro drove me there for moral support, though he waited in the lobby. When I entered Dr. Klein's office, Daniela was already seated, looking tearful. Dr. Klein was a calm, middle-aged woman with kind eyes. Thank you for coming, Monica. Daniela has something she'd like to say. Daniela looked at her hands. I made it up. You never told me you were pregnant. I don't know why I said that. I appreciated the direct admission, but I needed more. This can't keep happening, Daniela. Do you understand that? She nodded miserably. Dr. Klein took over. We've been discussing why Daniela creates these stories. It seems that when things are going well for you, she feels a need to either insert herself into your happiness or create a narrative where she has information others don't. Daniela wiped her eyes. I've always felt like I was in your shadow. Even when we were kids, everyone would say how pretty and smart and nice you were. No one ever said those things about me. This was news to me. I'd never thought of our relationship that way. That doesn't make what I did okay, she continued. My therapist is helping me find healthier ways to feel important, I guess. Dr. Klein explained that Daniela was working on a comprehensive recovery plan, including medication for anxiety and regular therapy, but part of her healing involves making amends and establishing boundaries. That's why I suggested this meeting. By the end of the session, we had a clear agreement. Daniela would correct the pregnancy rumor immediately, she would not spread information about me without checking first, and I would give her space to focus on her recovery without cutting her off completely. It wasn't perfect, but it felt like the most realistic solution. As we were leaving, Daniela stopped me in the hallway. I really am sorry, she said, looking genuinely remorseful. Not just for this, but for everything. The fake pregnancy, the lies, ruining your wedding, all of it. For the first time, I actually believed her. The next few months were surprisingly peaceful. Daniela kept her distance but sent occasional normal texts. A funny meme, a question about a family recipe, nothing weird or dramatic. She corrected the pregnancy rumor as promised, and even explained to everyone that she was working through some personal issues. Pedro and I finally got our lives back. We painted our guest room, took a weekend trip to the beach, and started talking seriously about when we might actually want to start a family. It was the normal, drama-free existence we'd been craving. Then came my birthday. My mom insisted on hosting a small dinner party, just immediate family. I wasn't sure if Daniela would be invited, but when I arrived, she was already there, helping set the table. She gave me a quick hug, nothing over the top. Happy birthday! I brought cupcakes from that bakery you like. Throughout dinner, I kept waiting for something weird to happen, for Daniela to make an announcement or create some scene, but she just participated in normal conversation, laughing at my dad's terrible jokes and complimenting my mom's cooking. After dessert, she handed me a small wrapped gift. Inside was a framed photo of us as kids, maybe 5 and 9 years old, building a sandcastle at the beach. On the back, she'd written, "Remember when things were simple? I'm working to get back there. Love, D." I felt a lump in my throat. Thanks, Daniela. This is really thoughtful. She smiled slightly. Your mom helped me find the picture. I thought you might like it. As people started clearing the table, Daniela pulled me aside. I've been seeing Dr. Klein twice a week. She diagnosed me with borderline personality disorder and some other stuff. The medication is helping a lot. That's good, I said, genuinely pleased for her. You seem calmer. She nodded. I am, and I've been thinking about what happened with the fake pregnancy and everything after. I know sorry doesn't fix it, but I want you to know I'm really working on myself. I believed her. This wasn't the performative, dramatic Daniela I'd become accustomed to. This was someone trying to be better. By the way, she added, I'm actually dating someone now. For real this time. His name is Eric. He works at the library. Maybe you and Pedro could meet him sometime. No pressure though. I agreed, curious but cautious. The evening ended without incident, and as Pedro and I drove home, I felt cautiously optimistic. She seemed different, Pedro observed. More authentic. Yeah, I agreed. I hope it lasts. And surprisingly, it did. Over the next few months, we met Eric, who turned out to be a kind, slightly nerdy guy who seemed totally smitten with Daniela. They had a normal relationship. No fake pregnancies, no dramatic announcements, just two people dating. Family gatherings became less stressful. Daniela stopped trying to be the center of attention at every event. She got a promotion at her new job and moved into a nicer apartment. She still had her moments, occasional passive-aggressive comments or slight exaggerations, but nothing compared to before. Then, about a year after the mall confrontation, Daniela invited me for coffee. Just the two of us. I was nervous as I walked into the cafe, half expecting some new drama, but she was just sitting there with 2 cups, looking anxious but composed. Thanks for coming, she said, pushing a latte toward me. I wanted to talk to you about something important. My stomach tightened. Okay. She took a deep breath. Eric proposed last weekend. It's not a big production or anything, just a small ceremony in his parents' backyard next month. That's great, I said cautiously. Congratulations. Thanks, she fiddled with her cup. The thing is, I'm trying to do this right. No drama, no lies, no trying to upstage anyone. Just a simple, honest wedding. I nodded, still waiting for the catch. I know I ruined your wedding day with my fake pregnancy announcement. I can't undo that, but I wondered if, she hesitated. Would you be my maid of honor? I completely understand if you say no after everything I've put you through. I was speechless. This was the last thing I'd expected. You don't have to answer now, she She added quickly, think about it. Talk to Pedro. I just wanted you to know that you're important to me. The real you, not the version I created in my head to be jealous of. I did think about it. I talked it over with Pedro for hours that night. I called Miguel and my mom for their perspectives. I even had another session with Dr. Klein to make sure this wasn't some elaborate new manipulation. In the end, I agreed to be her maid of honor, not because I'd forgotten what she'd done, but because I believed in second chances, and because the genuine effort she was making to change deserved recognition. The wedding was exactly as she described, simple in Eric's parents' backyard, with only about 30 guests. Daniela wore a modest white dress, nothing extravagant. She didn't demand attention or try to make the day about anything other than their commitment to each other. During the reception, I found myself sitting with her new mother-in-law, a sweet older woman named Nancy. Daniela told me everything, you know, Nancy said quietly, about the fake pregnancy, about how she treated you. She was so ashamed, but Eric insisted she be honest with us before they got married. I was surprised. And you're okay with all that? Nancy smiled. Everyone deserves a chance to become better than they were. She's not the same person who did those things. The fact that she could admit it and work to change, that shows character. As I watched Daniela dancing with Eric, looking genuinely happy without needing to be the center of attention, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This chapter of our lives was truly closing. On our way home, Pedro squeezed my hand. You okay? I nodded. Yeah, actually. I think Daniela's really changed. Not perfectly, but significantly. People can surprise you, he said with a smile. Sometimes in good ways. 6 months later, Pedro and I found out I was actually pregnant. For real this time. When we told our families, Daniela hugged me warmly and said, I'm so happy for you both. No dramatics, no trying to steal the spotlight. She kept her word throughout my pregnancy. No fake announcements, no weird competition. When my daughter Lucia was born, Daniela visited the hospital with a small gift and stayed only as long as was appropriate. Looking at my beautiful baby girl, with Pedro beside me and our family drama finally behind us, I felt a contentment I hadn't experienced in years. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are capable of the most meaningful growth. And sometimes giving someone a second chance, with proper boundaries and expectations, allows both of you to heal. I'm not saying everyone should forgive toxic behavior, or that all relationships can be saved. But in our case, with a lot of work, mostly on Daniela's part, and professional help, we found our way back to something resembling a healthy family dynamic. As for me and Pedro, we're just enjoying being new parents and experiencing all the real drama that comes with a newborn. No fake pregnancies needed. The actual thing is challenging enough.